Hey, well, welcome to the show, and I'm glad you're here. Sorry about the last couple of weeks. So, 2 weeks ago, it was Super Bowl. We're going to do a live show during Super Bowl. And then last weekend, we had a family birthday dinner that I had to go to. So, skipped a couple weeks, but we're back now, and we have lots to talk about. We have some pictures to get to, some new content coming this week. But first of all, I want to do a shout out to CanadaDrives.ca. If you're looking for a used vehicle, you can search online, buy the cars in the GTA, all throughout Alberta and throughout British Columbia. You shop online, you do the application online, the credit and everything, and then they deliver the car in a covered trailer to your house. It's that simple. So that's CanadaDrives.ca. And then Car Cost Canada, if you're looking for a brand new car, you want to find out what the dealer paid for the car. That's pretty powerful information. So sign up using the promo code MotorMouth, the name of the channel, and you become an expert member, and then you can start searching and really find out the true cost of the car. Okay, we have some pictures to get to, and we'll do that, and then we'll get into what else is coming up here during the week. All right, we have some cool ones today. The first one is from Dean, I think is the name I wrote down, from Europe, and he's got an EQS. I guess we did the video on the EQS a week or so ago, and he has one. Oh, I'm switching it up now. This one is Evan Katz with a Santa Cruz in sage green. Here's the other EQS one. Hang on a sec. There's the interior of the EQS, all lit up. Pretty fancy, right? All right, the next one is Carter, I believe. No, this one is from Randall in Alberta. He's got two Jags. So first of all, this is a very nice car. It's a 2018 Jaguar F-Type. That's the supercharged R. It sounds so horny. It is an amazing car to drive, a great touring car, absolutely loved. The one I had to drive for the press car was the convertible. The coupe is even cooler. And then there's this. It's a 1968 E-Type. Now, obviously, Randall likes red because he's got the E-Type. Now, that is like ultra cool. Then he's got the F-Type. Now, that's ultra cool. But you probably also notice in the background, he's got a red Buick. So he's got that. What's the next one? The next one comes from Carter. It's an '08 MX-5 Miata and a 2013 GTI. Nice shot. Nice composition. Well done. I like that. And then the last one, I showed it to you already. That is from Evan with the Santa Cruz. So I keep forgetting to give you the email address. If you want to get a picture in for the live show, it's Zack at motormouth.ca, ZACK at motormouth.ca, or ZACK at motormouth.ca for Americans south of the border. What else do we want to talk about? So coming up this week, on Tuesday, we're going to have a comparison. This is kind of an interesting one. This is the first time we've ever done brand on brand as a comparison. So we're going to do the Subaru Outback versus the Subaru Forester. Both of them have been updated for 2022, so we're going to do a comparison with those two vehicles. And even though they're both SUVs and a similar sort of category, they're really quite different. So that's going to be a good one on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, we have the Mercedes-Benz GLE that we did actually about 6 weeks or so ago. And when you watch the video, it doesn't fit in Vancouver right now, but it will for rest of Canada. It was done during a bit of snow we had here. And the big news is tomorrow we pick up the Kia EV6, right? The competitor to the Ioniq. So we get that car tomorrow, and we're going to turn the video around and put it out on Saturday. So there you go. Lots of good content coming up this week. And if you have to get a question answered, do not hesitate to do a live chat, a super chat, I should say, on the channel. And that way I get to see it and you get your question answered. So, excuse me, feel free to do that. All right. He's back to being first. It's Barrick. Hey, Zach, what's your take on the cargo ship fire in the Atlantic and the thousands of Porsches, Bentleys, VWs lost at sea? Will it have a big impact on new car sales? So those ships take about 4,000 to 6,000 cars, quite a lot of vehicles. Now, for Volkswagen, it wouldn't be a lot. Like, say, for example, there were a bunch of Golf Rs and GTIs on there and maybe ID4s because they were coming from Europe. Now, they make a lot of those. So that would have an impact to some extent, but not a massive extent. Then you throw in Lamborghini, Bentley, and Porsche. Well, some of the vehicles that they make, well, most of the vehicles they make are done in limited quantities. So to have hundreds of a certain brand like that go up in flames is going to really impact how many they can make again and ship over the ocean. All of these cars were destined for the US. None of them were destined for Canada. So anybody who had a special order in for a Bentley or a Lamborghini or a Porsche or even maybe an ID4 from Volkswagen, those come on a separate ship and land in Halifax. The US port, I believe, is Baltimore, but or New Jersey. But yeah, it's a big hit for the smaller brands. For the big brand like Volkswagen, it's not going to be that big a deal. But if you were waiting for a special Bentley or Lamborghini, it could be a while till you get one, or an RS version of a Porsche. Good question. Hey, Zach, what do you think of the upcoming 22 C-Class? Do you know when you were going to get a chance to test one? I don't know the timeline, but we're really anticipating getting it. It's kind of like an S-Class Lite with one big screen in the center. I've seen pictures of it. Of course, it's out in Europe. But so that car is interesting, of course. But what's more interesting is the GLC that it's based on. So they take the C-Class and they turn it into the GLC. And that's the volume vehicle for Mercedes-Benz in the SUV category. So that one is going to be very interesting to see. But I don't have any specific timeline on that. All right. We do have a couple of super chats here, and I thank you for that. Oh, there's my pal up the road, Dave. There's Dave Reimer up the street. Thank you for that. And he has a question. Hey, Zach, Andrea, hello from Port Moody. Great content lately. Thank you. Thank you very much. I thought, Dave, you just lived up the street. Oh, no. I thought Dave just lived up the street from me. You're in Port Moody now? There's Dave again. Any word on the availability of the GV60? Looks like a great car. Could finally be a candidate to replace our EX35. Would look good beside the Cayman. Okay, I'm getting my Reimers mixed up. Okay, Dave does live out there, and he has a Cayman. Of course, now I get it. I have another Reimer friend up the street. So the GV, you know the one that, I'm going to be a bit of a contrarian here. So the GV60 is the Genesis full electric car, right? That's their SUV. But they're also doing a GV70 full electric. And speaking to the product planner from Hyundai, and we kind of talked about it, and he agreed, you know, you get all of the same looks as the GV80 and the same interior, and it's fully electric. That would be the one that I would like. But yeah, listen, this is the biggest issue we have, period, is when is the car coming? When is the car coming? I email, and they say it's coming, it's coming. For example, the EV6. We are finally getting it tomorrow. We're still waiting for the new Rogue with the turbo 3-cylinder. We're waiting for that one to arrive. So our world is waiting for the cars to arrive. And as soon as we know and as soon as we find out, we pass it along to you. Super chat from BG. When do you drive the MDX Type S? Same thing. Had a email into Acura and Honda. We do have the updated, facelifted RDX in a few weeks, so that is booked in. But the MDX Type S is on its way. As soon as we get it, of course, we will turn it around and get that video out as soon as we can. Here's another super chat from SimSup. Hey, Zach, enjoy your channel. If Porsche ends production of the gas-powered Macan after the EV version comes out, will that hurt the value of existing gas-powered Macans? I don't believe that is going to happen. Isn't that funny? The Macan just popped up. I don't think that is going to happen. And I'll tell you, talking to one of the salespeople at the Porsche dealership here in Vancouver, his take on this is that is their volume car. That's the car they sell the most of. And then second behind that is the Cayenne. The Cayenne's now become quite a bit more expensive. So they need that entry-level car that they can move a lot of volume. The electric version of the Macan will not be a cheap vehicle. It is going to be expensive. You just look at Taycan and what they're charging for that. I don't think they're going to bring in a Macan full electric as a volume car. I just don't think that's the case. I think they're going to bring it in parallel with the gasoline models, or they might continue to make the existing gas model as the EV gets introduced at higher trims. Typically, when they bring in a new model, they bring in turbo, turbo S, stuff like that, and then slowly, as the months and years go by, they bring in the cheaper versions. I don't think it will affect the resale value of the gasoline models. In fact, nice examples of unique models like a Macan GTS with unique colors and features in the long run will be collectible, in my opinion. That's just my thought. Okay, where were we here? Let's go back up to the top. But thanks for the super chat. Appreciate that. And I got to get my rhymers sorted here. Hey, Zach, what do you think about having a rear-wheel drive as a daily in a city that gets snowfall? Is it fun, or having a rear-wheel drive outweigh the difficulty of driving in the snow? Thanks for all the great content. Well, here's the thing, Victor. It depends on the car. If it's a really low-slung car that's quite sporty, you could get caught up in ruts in the snow and that sort of thing. But modern cars today, like I grew up in an era where most cars were rear-wheel drive, and then front-wheel drive little Econo boxes like the Rabbit, the Golf called now, and the Dodge Omni, and all those cars started to come out. They were front-wheel drive cars, and then the Civic and all of those. So a two-wheel drive car with the proper winter tires is the most important thing. So if you're living in a major city where they clear the snow quite regularly, and then they salt and sand regularly, and you get good quality, like I'm talking a set of Nokian or Toyo or Bridgestone or Michelin winter tires, and then you add in the fact that modern cars have traction and stability control, where back in the day that was not even available, and you use your brains, you will get around no problem. I mean, if it's a thick, heavy snowfall day, you might want to take the bus, but if or an Uber. But if it's normally cleared roads, you'll be just fine. Here's Carter, who gave us the picture of the GTI and the Miata. Hey, Zach, can you share some tips on how to avoid buying used cars that have been in major collisions? I've relied on Carfax, but here it doesn't get reported if the owner doesn't go through insurance. Now, that is true. If, for example, a car is in an accident and it's maybe a $1,500 repair, and they don't want it to show up on Carfax, especially if it's a specialty car, then they just get it repaired, especially if it's their own fault. They're not going to claim through insurance. Say you backed into a pole or something like that. You don't want to jack up your insurance rates. You just get the car fixed. Now, the best thing you can do always is to get the vehicle inspected. Get it up on a hoist. Get a mechanic to look at it. See all the corners of the car. You can do this yourself. You can pull back the inner liner of the trunk and see if there's been damage to the fenders. Underneath, you can see the main rails of the car if they've been damaged. And that's really what you need to do. You need to get a set of eyes on it that knows where to look for crash damage. And that's how you do it. So Carfax is a good thing to have, but you have to get any used car, in my opinion, inspected. Here's Aaron. Hey, Zach, having a hard time deciding between a BMW 340 and an S5. The Sportback, which one would you pick? Ruled out the M440 because of the ugly grille. Well, you can kind of have your cake and eat it too, because you can get the 3 Grand Coupe, which has a lift back like the S5. I believe it's still sold. But this is a no-brainer. If it's just a regular 330, I kind of like the A5, just because I think it's a nice car. But when you're talking about the more powerful engine, then you get into the inline turbo 6-cylinder in the BMW. It is a no-brainer. That engine is one of the best on the road, period. So you will enjoy it, you will like it, and if you don't put your foot into it all the time, it actually can be pretty good on fuel economy. If you drive normally, sure, you're going to have fun with it once in a while, but especially if you do highway driving, it's a very efficient engine. So that one's easy. Jason, what's your opinion on the F-150 Lightning? I will have the reservation conversion opportunity in a few weeks. What's your take on the traditional trucks that run on battery? So I think that if you've got an opportunity to get an F-150 Lightning and you can afford it, this is the big problem I have with these things is what are they going to cost when you get all the features on it that you want? It ain't going to be cheap. But there you go. I think that the engineering that's gone into it is probably going to be very good. I was just before we came on here reading an article about Magna, the parts supply company. that provides a lot of parts, all the way from small parts to full components for cars. And Magna even builds cars. For example, the G-Wagon, the Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, is built at a Magna factory in Austria. They have built Porsche Boxsters before under contract. They've done lots of that kind of stuff. So what they've actually developed is a full EV integration for pickup trucks and other vehicles that have the bolting points that are exactly the same as, we'll pick a Ram, for example. They will sell Stellantis a fully integrated electric component system that bolts right into their existing truck. So I wouldn't be worried too much about the fact that it's not like a purpose-built Rivian or the Cybertruck that's just built for EV. Ford knows what it's doing when it comes to trucks. And the reports out of the Mustang Mach-E are very strong when it comes to reliability. In fact, the Ford Mustang Mach-E is the highest rated electric car that Consumer Reports has, with the least number of problems. So that's encouraging. So yeah, and I think that it's going to be so, like, it's like the Bronco. Anybody that's got a Bronco could turn around, flip it, and sell it for more money. So if you are in line to get an F-150 Lightning and you can get it, there's really no downside. You could drive it for 6 months. If you don't like it, you could sell it and someone will pay you top dollar for it. Here's another Ford question. How do you think the pricing on the new Raptor will compare to the competition? This is the Ranger Raptor. Do you think it'll be close to the Bison, the TRD Pro Tacoma, or do you think it'll be closer to something? I don't know. Listen, I have no intel on what the packaging is going to be. But one thing I will say is there seems to be no limit to what people will pay if they really want to have it, right? We see that with pickup trucks. If people want to have a full load truck, they will pay through the nose for it. You go and spec out a new Bronco, the full-size Bronco with all the toys on it. Man, it's expensive. And people who want a Ranger Raptor, who want it, are going to really want it, and they will be willing to pay for it. So these car companies know that there's a small but captive market of people who will pay to have the latest, and that's who they're going to market those cars to. My guess, it ain't going to be value driven. It's going to be spend a unit. And we're seeing with cars, period, that the prices are going up. So look to the Bronco pricing as an indication for what the Ranger Raptor is going to be, because it's based on the same platform, right? That's what you're looking at. Or the Raptor version. Sanjeev, hey Zach, can you make a 2022 Palisade calligraphy, Kia V6, EV6 electric, and the Nissan Kicks? Okay, so go back and watch the Hyundai Palisade video from a couple of years ago. Really not much has changed. And if there are any changes, they're very minor. So go into the channel, type in Palisade, watch the video. All of the stuff that we said about it is still true today. Nothing has really changed. And if they are changed, they're going to be very minor changes. EV6 video is coming. The car is arriving. We get it tomorrow. And then the Nissan Kicks, I just heard that it is too on a train or a truck on its way here. Hey Zach, I want a car around 20 grand. I have a family of 4, but don't need an SUV because we don't go to the mountains or carry any stuff. What would you recommend? What websites do we look at? Okay, now I'm not sure, Stephen, if you're looking at a brand new car or a used car. I still contend that cars like a good used Honda Civic, perfect car. You can move a family of 4 around in that, no problem. It's got a big back seat. It's got a big trunk. Same for Corolla. Same for the Elantra, depending on which side of the border you're on. Now, brand new, you can get some base model cars. The Elantra starts under 20 grand. That's before tax, of course. The one that we just drove, we just took it back yesterday, was the new Nissan Sentra. Really like the Sentra a lot. It's a very nice car. But I would say for that price point, you're going to be looking used, and you're going to be looking at, in my opinion, I would just go get a Honda Civic with the base 2-liter engine. We have one. So it's a great car. How would you compare the Renegade to the Q3? They're about the same size. That's how I would compare them. I don't really have much more to say than that. There were 2 totally different classes when it comes to equipment. The Renegade can be equipped for a more off-road capable version of it, but they're really not barking up the same tree. We have another super chat. AP says, getting a new car budget, 80,000 US. Good for you. Looking at a loaded X5 or an OK option base Cayenne. Which way would you lean? I'd like a comfy ride, but don't want to handle like a boat. So GLE is out. Now don't discount the GLE right away, because I would, because the GLE that we drove a year or so ago had the optional air suspension. Didn't love it. For us, we called it floaty boaty, too floaty boaty. But the video that's dropping on Wednesday is the GLE Coupe with the regular passive spring and shock. And I liked it quite a bit. I thought it was a very nice balance of traditional Mercedes-Benz luxury, but also some connectivity to the road. So that one, don't take it off the list. Go and try it with the base non-air suspension. Okay, so that is actually a really nice inline 6-cylinder engine, good power, and it has a mild hybrid 48-volt system. Then we switch gears to the BMW X5. In my opinion, the best engine of the three. Base model Cayenne, base model or the V6 GLE, and then the X5 with the 40i engine. That engine is the one to beat. The Cayenne has other attributes to it, though. The badge is, of course, important to a lot of people, and those who say it isn't, they're lying. A much more car-like experience because it just has better road manners. Really quite comfortable, nice materials, but they're all very good. Now, it really comes down to what you like in a vehicle. I would say that the interior of the GLE is probably the winner when it comes to a wow factor. The X5 is a really functional interior, and I actually, of the three, like using that one the best. And the simplest and the cleanest example is the Porsche Cayenne. It's just a screen, a few buttons, and that's it. So these are all trade-offs, and you have to decide what's important to you. But these are all three excellent choices. But back to the GLE, I did like it with the passive spring and shock. There you go. Somebody's saying, what's the bubble pop noise? I have no idea. This is confounding me. I don't know why it does, what's going on with this stupid program, but there you go. But thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. JD. Hey, Zach, thanks for all the reviews you and Andrea do every week. If you have ceramic coating on your Porsches, do you get annual maintenance performed by your detailer? A lot of confusion out there. So our white Cayenne, the diesel, does have ceramic coating on it. The orange GTS or Nordic Gold GTS does not. It just has a really good wax on it. The ceramic coating, I am kind of turned the corner on this. I really do think it's fantastic. It's especially good for people like us who park outside. We don't have a big double garage that we park in every night. The cars sit out on the street. They're under big old maple trees. There's birds that crap on the car. There's tree sap and crap that gets on the car. So I love the ability to hose it off or wash it. And when you wash the car, it's just so slippery. Everything just slides right off it. So the annual treatment that you get with ceramic coating. Now, this is what Derek, the detailer from 911 Auto Works here in Vancouver that did it on our Cayenne, told me. He said, you're not really adding anything to the ceramic coating. The ceramic coating is on the paint, and it's sealed the paint. What you're doing with the annual application is they put a product on that gets rid of any grime that's sort of attached onto the coating over the year. So what it does is it just basically restores the ceramic coating back to the way it was when it was first applied. So it's not an additional ceramic coating. This is the way he explained it to me. You're just removing any contaminants from the paint and allowing that very slippery finish to come back. And apparently it does add some extra water repellent properties. So ours was done. We had a little minor lady bumped into the back of our car when it was parked, and we had to get the rear bumper resprayed. So Derek was very kind to reapply it to the bumper, and he did that yearly touch-up on our car. So I haven't done it myself, but it's got to go in soon, probably this spring, to get it done. So that's what you're paying for when you have an annual touch-up on the car. It's actually a decontamination of the system that was put on. That's what Derek told me. Okay. Here's another super chat from AP says, thank you for your input, Zach, and forgot to mention thanks as always for doing these streams. Well, appreciate it. Well, speaking of the streams, we have 276 on board, 66 thumbs up, 1 thumbs down. There's always one of you out there. There you go. There's always one of you out there. One smart aleck. Okay. John Wong is here. How do you figure out how much car you can buy? Also, when buying used, how old of a car should I look for and how much kilometers? This is a good question. So I have this argument with a lot of other people in our business, other auto journalists, and I always explain to them, do you realize how people buy cars? And they're like, what do you mean? They buy the best one, the one they like. And I'm like, no, that's not how people buy cars. People buy cars based on payments. Bring in Car Cost Canada. Go to carcostcanada.com and then you get the real value of the car the dealer paid for it. So what people do when they shop for cars is they have a monthly budget. And that's my advice to you is, John, figure out what your monthly budget is. Is it $300 a month? Is it $400 a month? Is it $500 a month? Is it $1,500 a month? I don't know. So that's how people buy cars. They buy the most car that they can get for that monthly budget. Now, there are outliers. There are people who save up and they buy their car outright. There are other people that, save and save and save and buy the best used car they can. But most people are going into dealers and they're either financing or leasing the car over several years. That's what the vast majority of people do. And it's based on monthly payments. So the way I always look at this is when you're looking at 2 cars, we'll pick 2 of the best-selling crossovers, the Honda CR-V and the Toyota RAV4. These 2 are bought by so many people across North America and around the world. So you go into the dealership and you say, I want an XLE RAV4 or I want an LX CR-V. They're both $35,000. Then you get into how much is the interest rate for the one versus the other, and then how much are the monthly payments. And often, which one you choose, I like the RAV4, I kind of like the CR-V. The tiebreaker is the deal, is how much it costs you per month. And that's how people buy cars. So my advice to you is, go into this knowing what your monthly budget is and shop accordingly. And that will help you decide what you can afford. Now, the other part of your question is if you're going to buy used, is what should I look for and how many kilometers? Okay, there is a psychological barrier for some people when the number gets big for mileage or kilometers. And it's around 100,000, okay? So don't go and buy a car that's got 92,000 kilometers on it, because you're going to drive it for 6 or 8 months and it clicks over 100,000, and there's a psychological barrier there. People say, I would rather have a lower mileage car, even though the car is probably just the same as it was at 92,000. So I think cars that are in the sweet spot for depreciation, cars that are 3-4 years old that have depreciated, and if you can find one that's got lower mileage on it, maybe around 40, 50, 60,000 kilometers, you're going to have several years before you get up to that magic number. So that's something to consider. But that's a very good question. 2015 Genesis sedan for $22,000. Do you think it's a good second-hand buy in terms of serviceability, being a Hyundai? So the Genesis sedan, which was the Hyundai Genesis back in the day, actually turned out to be quite a reliable car. Now, I'm not sure if you're talking about the 3.8-liter V6 or the 5-liter V8. Now, that was an engine, or still is an engine, available in the G90. But with anything that's of that age now, we're talking about a 7-year-old car, you have to do your due diligence. Get it inspected by somebody that knows the product. The great thing is, it's a Hyundai, it's not a Genesis. It can still be serviced at a Hyundai dealer. So take it, if you're thinking about buying one, to the Hyundai dealer and get them to do what's called a pre-purchase inspection and see if it's in good shape. Excuse me. Here's John Wong again. Should we buy rebuilds? No. In my opinion, no. It is a question mark about the car. So you're going to get a better deal on a rebuilt car, but when you go to try and sell it, it's just less saleable when you have a rebuilt car. Get the best example of anything that you're going to buy. That's my advice when buying a car. Buy the best example that you can afford of any car. Does that mean you're going to get a 2019? Well, maybe that means you go back and you start shopping for a 2016 or 2017. But find the best example you can for your dollar. And that doesn't mean buying a salvage title car, in my opinion. Here's Evan. Excuse me. You guys always must think I cough a lot. It's just my thing. I sent a picture of the 2022 Santa Cruz SEL Premium. It was on earlier, Evan. You missed it. It was at the beginning. Let me see if I can find it again for you. Here it is. There's Evan's car. Oh, geez, I've lost it now. Oh, I don't know where it is. Anyway, it was on earlier. You can watch it when it goes back to replay it. Any word on when you and Andrew will be testing the EV6 or the GV60? The EV6, the review will be out Saturday. We're pretty excited about it. No information on the Genesis yet. Love it. Keep up the good work. Which diesel Cayenne do you have? We have what's called a 958. That was the Cayenne that was made from 2015 to 2018. But in the diesel world, it was only made from 2015 to 2016. So that's the Cayenne, the previous generation Cayenne with the facelift and also with the diesel engine. So that was only sold for 2 years, 2015, 2016. And it was only sold for half of 2016 because, no, it wasn't even half. It was only for a few months of 2016 because Dieselgate hit in September of 2015. So any of the new 2016s that were going to be delivered were on ships that didn't catch fire and were delivered to the dealers, and they sat on them until they were cleared to be sold. And that's what we have. We have a 2016 that was made, I believe it was in the summer of 2015, maybe September, and then was eventually shipped here to Porsche Center, Vancouver, and it sat on a lot for 2 years. And I bugged Lewis, one of the sales managers at Porsche Center, Vancouver. I went down to the lot and I said to him, are those all the ones you have? And he says, yeah. He says, well, we've got like 10 or 12 there. And he said, walk around, pick the one you want, and take a picture of the VIN through the windshield, and I'll put your name against it. It's exactly what I did. So I walked around and looked at all the different versions. There were green ones, red ones, black ones, and I kept coming back to this white one because it had the equipment on it that I wanted. So to his word, when the cars were cleared for sale, once it was upgraded and all the emissions system had been recalibrated, we got it. And it was a 2016 model that was brand new, never registered in 2018. In fact, exactly 4 years ago this month, in March, we got it 4 years ago. So yeah, now that I think about it, it's quite rare to get a 2016 because they were only made for maybe a month or so. So most of them are 2015s. And we're never going to sell it because you'll never get a Cayenne diesel again. Well, you're not getting a new one, and we got it brand new. It wasn't brand new. It was 2 years old, but it had never been driven. So yeah, we're really happy with it. It's a fantastic car. It's just a torque monster. So yeah, it doesn't sound that sexy when you say I have a Cayenne diesel. People have this thing in their mind and they go, oh, it must be like a tractor. No, it absolutely flies when you put your foot into it. It gets amazing fuel economy. Like in the city, we get 750 kilometers of range in that SUV. In city driving on the highway, easily over 1,000 kilometers. It's crazy. All right, we got to catch up on some super chats that have been popping up here. Jeff Fraser. Hey, Jeff, good to see you. Good evening, Zach. Great news. I ordered my 2020 Toyota Venza and had a great buying experience. Shout out to Exeter Toyota here in Southern Ontario. thanks to you and Andrea's help. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you liked it. Exeter, so you're in southwestern Ontario. Yeah, Exeter is near where I used to live, London, Ontario. So congrats. Look forward to your reports when you get it. Nice choice. Hopefully, the Venza Lexus NX hybrid video comparison we did out earlier in the week helped a little bit. Here's Raj. Hey, brother. Haven't seen you in a while. Got a super chat. Appreciate that. Did you have another one? Yeah, I think we've covered all the super chats. So we have 340 on board of 112 thumbs up. There's one thumbs down. I'm okay with that. I got big shoulders. I can handle it. But thumbs up are always handy. Appreciate that. All right, let's get back to where we was. Where was we? Yeah, that's the ticket. John James. What's your opinion of doing oil changes at earlier intervals versus following the manufacturer's recommended intervals? Lots of debate around that lately, it seems. Okay, the one you don't want to do early is the first one. So I didn't know this, but my mechanic, one of my mechanics, master Porsche technician, found this out because he was in contact with the factory, and he told me, this is from him, he said that when a car is delivered from the factory, they put an additive in the first batch of oil that goes in the engine because cars aren't run in. The engines aren't run in before you they put them in the car. The engines are built to such close tolerances now that basically the break-in period is done by the owner, okay? So what they do is they put a slight bit of additional, it sounds counterintuitive, I know, but a bit of an abrasive additive in there. So what you have is you have the piston going up and down inside the cylinder sleeve, right? And what you need to do is you need to have these two marry. The piston, the rings, and the cylinder sleeve have to marry to each other, and that's called seating the engine. Okay, so the piston seats inside the sleeve there. It can be made of iron, it can be made of Nicosil, it can be made of all kinds of different materials, but they need to seat. So that additive that goes in the first batch of oil helps the pistons and the cylinders seat. That's what he explained to me. So he said, do not take out that first batch of oil until the first interval as suggested by the manufacturer. So in synthetic oil, in a Porsche, for example, it can be as high as 20,000 kilometers. That's a long time to go on an oil change or an annual service. So my advice to you is, if you're not doing the mileage as set out by the book, the Bible of your car, do an annual service. And you'll often see, and this is one of the least read things on the planet, is the owner's manual. So go in there for the service intervals, follow that, but also make note of not the mileage, but the time. So a lot of brands will say, you know, you're going to do 12,000 kilometers or annually. So that's my advice to you. After you've gone a year and you haven't done the mileage, then you get the oil changed. So what I do with our cars is because we don't do a lot of mileage, we live right in the middle of the city, but we drive a lot, but we're just not going that far, is an annual service. Once that initial batch of oil is out of the car, changing the oil every week is not going to hurt the car at all. So have at it if that's your thing. But that first batch, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Do. All right, here's another super chat. Cannot convince myself to pay over $60,000 for an EV all-wheel drive and wait 18 months for it. So planning to rent an Outback for 24 months for now. Thoughts? I have not met an EV that I go, wow, this is the one I want. Like there's always something about them that I don't like. And a big part of it for me is the lack of physical buttons in the car and these stupid touch interfaces that I don't like. A perfect example is we just took back the Nissan Sentra, and I said to Andrea, you know what I love about inexpensive cars? Everything is the way I like it. It's got real heat controls, real radio controls, real switches for everything. I don't need stupid door handles to pop out. It just works. I want to release the trunk. I push a button on the dash. Pops the trunk. So I have yet to meet an EV where I go, oh, I really like this. There's everything about it I like. I want to get one. It hasn't happened yet. So people ask all the time. You're asking the same question. My thought is exactly what you're thinking. There's going to be so many vehicles coming into the marketplace in the next few years. And I'm waiting for the next versions of these. For example, we'll pick the Mustang Mach-E and the ID4 from Volkswagen. Both have just come out within the last year. Well, in a few years, they're going to come out with the updated version. That's when I'm interested. When they update the battery, they update the infotainment screen, they update all the interfaces, they do all of those updates to the car. That's when I think that I might be interested. But right now, first mover advantage to get a car just because you want to have it first, I don't see. I'm with you. So there's some great fuel efficient vehicles out there. I keep coming back over and over and over to the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid. It's cheap to buy, doesn't cost much more than the gas version, incredibly reliable, amazing resale value. And when your lease is done in 2 or 3 years, there's going to be so many more electric cars for you to choose from than there is today. And instead of chasing your tail trying to find one, that's what I think. And you want to save some money, that's what I would buy. But that's not for everybody. Here's another one, another super chat from Raj. Bubble pop noise. I'm pretty sure that's a notification that a new message is posted in the chat. Thanks, Raj. I know, I've heard that. I just don't know how to get rid of it. I've looked through the settings. I don't know where it is. Anyway, thank you. Okay, back up where we were. 380 on board now. This is good. I like this. 153 thumbs up. That would be good if you could smash that button. But listen, if you're somebody that is a new tech kind of person and you want to have the newest and the latest of something and you want to have, you're really, really, really hot on getting an electric car, listen, who am I to say? But I just think that right now there's so many people chasing a small availability, because the big problem that we have with electric cars and plug-ins and even some hybrids, they're not making enough of them. And the other thing is, because we have what's going on in the world right now, we have inflation that's real. And when economists say, oh, it's temporary, it's going to pass, I'm not seeing any. I mean, these are smart people who have a lot of experience in economics. We had the former Bank of Canada governor on TV this morning talking about this, and he says, oh, things are going to get better through the year. We heard that last year, and things have only gotten worse. Fuel prices in Vancouver, gas is reported today at $1.86 a liter. We have a war in Europe, and all. Is this the time to be trying to find a finite product that so many people are chasing? I don't know. Sorry guys, I got to get back to where I was. So back to the clicking, popping thing. I apologize. It's bad on me. I should have really dug around a lot more about it. There's Randall. Randall said, "If it ain't red, leave it in the shed." So Randall's the guy who has the what does he have? He's got the 1968 E-Type and the 2018 F-Type R. That engine, my God, that's amazing. The supercharged V8, 5-liter, giddy up, and a Buick. Hey Zach, what are your thoughts on which you would choose, a 2022 Audi S5 or a Lexus IS 350 all-wheel drive, and why? Both are nice. Lexus reliability and the Audi styling. Let's marry them together. That's what I say. The Lexus IS is actually a really nice car. Unfortunately, it's kind of small in the back seat, especially. I like it. I just don't love it. I think that the Audi, it just speaks to me personally, and it's only because I kind of tend to like German cars more, and I've had a lot of experience driving the A4, the RS5, the S5. I've gone to all kinds of different launches for these vehicles. So, and I like the interface that Audi has. I think they do a really good job with making great, very practical vehicles. But then there's nothing wrong with the idea of getting a Lexus, especially if you're getting the 350 with a more powerful version. It really is a nice car to drive. They did a great job with the suspension, much better handling, much more dialed in feel to the car than before. But the rest of the car, in my opinion, is just a kind of a warmed over version of what they've had in the market for far too long. They didn't go far enough with that car. They came out with a warmed over version, slightly modified styling, much better handling. The suspension they did spend time on, but the rest of the car is old, in my opinion. And the Audi, I like a lot. Hey, my wife and I are looking at a new vehicle. Would you recommend an HR-V or the Corolla Cross? Well, the HR-V is old. It is one of the oldest in this class, and there's already been some sort of they're not spy shots. They're renders of the next HR-V. So there's going to be a new one coming. So two ways to look at this. I like the deal I'm getting on an HR-V today, or would I rather wait and see what the new one's going to be like? Then you get the Corolla Cross, which is new, just arrived. So you've got the advantage of it just being released. I like the Corolla Cross. I like the dash. I like the interior. I like the way it looks. I like the size, except for the back seat's kind of small. And the other negative is if you drive a lot on the highway, I'm not sure if you do, it's noisy on the highway. Driving it in the city at lower speeds over normal roads, it was totally fine. But on the highway, I wasn't really impressed with the noise calibration in there. Okay, so it's interesting that you bring this up, because Andrew and I are going to do another top 5 video of our top 5 favorite vehicles in a certain category, and the next category is going to be small SUVs. So that's going to be the Corolla Cross, the HR-V, the Seltos, the Kona, the Mazda MX-30, and so on. So we're going to have a list of that. So if you're not in a rush, wait, that's going to be coming out in a week or so, okay? Would you be interested to know your thoughts on Polestar? Do you think this is a true alternative to Tesla? Well, Polestar has some major ambitions to be a major electric player worldwide. Now, you got to remember one thing. So they might not yet be major players here, but they are a Chinese-based company, Geely and Volvo, producing cars mostly, always got to remember this, for the biggest car market in the world, which is China. So there's loads of electric startup companies like NIO and others in China, and they want to be a dominant player. So even though they have grand ambitions and talk about sales being big numbers, what have you, and you might not see it here, it is happening somewhere else in the world, and it's happening in China. So they have a lot of horsepower, pardon the pun, to produce vehicles and to do research and development and produce vehicles at scale, because they have a lot of expertise in that. But, you know, will they ignite the imagination of potential buyers? I don't know. I think they do have to work on range for some of these. That's what I think. They have to work on the range. When you start looking at what Tesla's offering in their vehicles and then what Volvo and Polestar are offering in theirs, they're not in the same discussion yet, but we'll wait and see. Oh, here's Josh, who lives in Montreal, who got a Tesla Model Y. Here's a little winter update on the Tesla. In cold weather, when I go to use my brakes and use them hard, I slide since they are cold and rarely used, figuring out how to keep them warm. Yeah, so a lot of people are not aware with electric car, a lot of the braking that you're doing in light loads, for example, is just regen braking. It's the electric motor putting in resistance, creating electricity back into the battery. So the real brakes are not used that often. So you have a situation like Josh is talking about where you actually have to implement the real braking force. The brakes haven't been used for a while, so that can catch you out. I was reading an article about the most recalls of any brand in the last 12 months has been Tesla. And these are mandatory recalls as set out by the governing body. So a lot of these can be done over the air, but still, they've had more recalls than any other brand. They still have a major cold weather situation for some of their cars in cold climates like here in Canada, not being able to defrost the windshield and not being able to provide heat in the cabin. I know there have been some patches they've tried, but I'm hearing reports that that hasn't been fixed yet for everybody. So there you go. Good update though, Josh. Appreciate that. Here's Dominic with a super chat. Thank you, Dominic. Oh, here's your question below. Any thoughts on Mercedes dropping the A-Class? Yeah, I don't really have much in the way to think about. It didn't really sell very well. It wasn't a big seller for them, and you got to remember that sedan sales are really in the tank, and most needs for most people's needs will be satisfied by getting a GLA. And that's really the way the industry's going. So whether it's an A-Class sedan or an A-Class hatch, fun little cars, not big volume sellers, but they're still going to be supplying an A-Class product in the marketplace called a GLA or even the GLB. So same platform, same engine, same interior, but in a cute ute versus a sedan. It's kind of inevitable. This is the way it's going. And it's all going that way because that's what people buy. So if you really want a sedan or you really want a sports car, you want a manual transmission, people need to buy them. And if they don't, then they'll go away. And that's what we're seeing in the industry. But good question. Here's another super chat from Matthew. If we're to experience an EV revolution, it's got to get much easier for most people to purchase one. When will supply catch up to demand? It's all about battery supply. It's not just about battery supply. It's also about the infrastructure to charge these things. I mean, if there's a huge spike in electric sales over the next 5 years, they got to build out the charging infrastructure. Now, most people are still going to be able to fulfill their duties with their electric car by home charging, right? So you wake up in the morning and you've got a full tank of electricity. So you fully charge the car overnight while you're sleeping. And that's going to be useful for the vast majority of people who take their kids to school, go to the grocery store, commute to work, and then drive home. That's fine. It's those longer trips. All of that stuff needs to be integrated better. So that's the big one that a lot of people are holding off on. But availability is big. And for me, availability is one thing. Price is a big one. As I said, I haven't met the perfect electric car yet. I haven't driven one and go, man, that's a home run. Look at that. It costs that much? That's a deal. I'm hoping good things for the Toyota electric car, maybe the new Nissan SUV, but yeah, I still haven't met one yet. As Michael Bublé says, I still haven't met you yet. Is that the song? Yeah. He was at the hockey game the other night. Jack and I, my oldest son, went to the Canucks Flames game, where the Canucks won 7-1. It was a great game, and Michael Bublé was there, waving at the camera. Hey, Zack, why is it Lincoln line of SUVs overlooked individual reviews I've seen are more than favorable? I'm interested in the Nautilus. Thoughts on both subjects? Yeah, I will tell you why I think it is, because I see this from our side. You spend all the time to do a review of a Lincoln, and they do have some excellent products, and their quality scores are really quite high, is that we spend all the time doing a Lincoln, and you put it out into the world, and nobody watches it. So it's the same for all of the outlets that are doing automotive coverage. They tend to go to what gets people interested in their website, their app, their YouTube channel. And that's why I think Lincoln underperforms when it comes to coverage in the marketplace. So when we have, 100 cars a year to put onto the channel, we do 2 full car reviews a week. So that's roughly 100 cars a year. We're always looking for what we think you as the audience are going to be interested in. And we're going to pass over vehicles that we think are not going to be typically successful in terms of viewership. And I think that's where brands like Lincoln fall through the cracks. We just put a Volvo video out this week. We spent all the time doing the Volvo, and it did okay. But if we had done a Toyota RAV4 video, and we've done loads of them, it would have done better. Go figure. So I think that's what happens with Lincoln. They fall between the cracks for that exact reason. Here's my pal Jerome from Belle Provence. I'm surprised Honda's Trail Sport lineup is just badges. Is Honda really going at it against Subaru's Wilderness lineup with badges and four-season tires? You know what? That's an issue with a lot of products. You know, the RAV. Speaking of the RAV4, the RAV4 TRD is really not that much different from the regular one. It's got different badges, slightly raised suspension, different tires. They say an optimized all-wheel drive system, whatever that means. But yeah, car companies are in the business of marketing. They will market you to death. If you think you're driving a more capable vehicle because it looks more capable, people will buy that because they like to look like they're driving something more capable. I know this because I'm in this world with my older Porsche Cayenne. The big trend now is to get the first generation Cayennes and do safari builds with them. There's a couple of videos on the channel. My friend Cornelius at Core Cars, he's done a few of them, and I've covered them on the channel with some Friday releases. So a lot of people that buy these safari builds, they raise the Cayenne up, they put all the off-road lights and everything on it. Where are they going with it? Nowhere. So yeah, it's marketing. Here's Daniel Betancourt. I think you're Michael's cousin, aren't you? I think so. Any idea when you will test the RAV4 Hybrid 2022? Well, yes, it's a very good question. Andrew and I were talking about this just yesterday when we were out walking the dog. We said we need to get our hands on the 2022 RAV4 because they did a mild facelift on the outside. They did a very slight change to the radio head unit. I think it's just the surround. So as soon as we get it, we will turn it around and do a video on it. Hey, Zach, another super chat. What would it take to the general public for mass EV adoption besides price? My guess is charging times. What do you think? Well, I kind of talked about this a moment ago, and I think that yeah, price is the big one. I talked about it earlier, how people buy cars. People buy cars based on price. And right now, the price for most people, electric vehicles, are too expensive. And that's why. And then the other thing is, I'm not a big fan of using tax dollars to get people to buy personal transportation. I think that's ridiculous that somebody can get, 5, 8, 10 in the case of Quebec. I think is it $13,000 off a car. You're not getting a new bus. You're not getting a new subway. You're not getting a new highway. You're getting one person sitting in a car in traffic going to work. To me, that makes no sense. But that's a big one for me. I got a big rant about that. Shop Therapy, is that a Rolex Submariner? How do you like it? No, this is a Sea Dweller. You see it a little bit? This is a Sea Dweller. This was my first luxury watch that I bought in 2009. I sold my 911, my Carrera S, and bought this. This was my first luxury watch. Now I hate to tell you how many watches I have. It's an addiction. It's an addiction. I just got a new one about 2 weeks ago. I'm waiting for a new strap to arrive for it. But yeah, it's. I run into people who are into watches and cars, and I say, "My God, could you pick two more expensive hobbies?" I don't think so. Watches and cars. Stefan's saying, Ford Mach-E have many problems here in winter. They seem unreliable for now. Antoine Joubert told some stories of the many problems they have. Well, that's good feedback. We are at a big disadvantage here in Vancouver. I hate to tell you, if you're in Quebec where there's piles of snow, I have flowers up in my front yard here in Vancouver. And that's just the way it is. We don't get real extreme weather here when it comes to cold. It does get cold here sometimes in the winter, but not extreme cold like you get in Quebec or other parts of Canada. Like the prairies, they've had temperatures as low as -40. That's Celsius and Fahrenheit. So yeah, electric cars in climates like that. And it's interesting, though, because the largest number of sales of electric cars are in the province of Quebec. But also, the most money you can get from your government to bribe you to buy a car is the province of Quebec. So there you go. All right, we are pretty much all done. Thanks for all the super chats. It was very generous of you all. I appreciate that. Let's make sure I didn't miss any, because I hate when that happens. Someone does a super chat, and then I did miss one here. I'm a family man with one kid. Please suggest one: Subaru Crosstrek or Mazda CX-30, which will have good resale value. I'm a big fan of the Crosstrek. I like the CX-30. Don't get me wrong. If you're going to buy the turbo version of the CX-30, if you can afford that, a good product. The back seat is quite small. The cargo area isn't that big. The Crosstrek will have more space. And when you got a kid, even though it's just one, they come with a lot of stuff. If they're little, it's diaper bags and strollers. And then if they're a little older, it's friends. And you want to be able to take an extra kid in the back seat, and the car seats are clunky and all that. I would say Crosstrek, get the larger 2.5 liter engine, get the outdoor model with the wipe down seats, especially for kids. That's the one I would choose between the two. All right, is there another super chat I missed? Oh, I did miss another one. Oh, you're good. Hi, Zach. Wife is looking for a luxury hatchback crossover wagon with good quality seats. Thoughts on Audi A4 all-road and other suggestions? I love the A4 all-road. I think that's great. If your wife, this is a rare woman, if your wife is into getting a wagon and she'll get an all-road wagon, that's the one I would get, because that's a cool car. And most women don't like wagons. So if she likes a wagon, get it while you can, because there's another car that could just disappear. Not enough people buy them. The other one, see if it's still available, is in Canada, not in the United States. Mercedes-Benz sold the C-Class wagon, not the AMG 43, the regular 300. I didn't like the AMG version. I thought the suspension was way too crashy. But the regular C-Class wagon 300, now that is another nice car. So see if any of those are still kicking around before the new C-Class drops. That car is not going to probably be continued in the future, but that's another one. But if she's into a wagon, those are two very good choices. I think we got them all. Thanks very much to everybody who tuned in. Thanks for all the super chats. Thanks for the thumbs up. Before we go here, if you guys could pump the thumbs up, we're at we have half as many thumbs up as we have people on board right now. So if you guys could jack that up a little bit higher, that would be fantastic. And what else is coming up this week? So we're doing a brand-on-brand comparison. That's going to drop Tuesday. It's Subaru against Subaru. The Forester against the Outback. Both of them are sort of compact utilities. Both of them have the new outdoor trim. Not the outdoor, the wilderness trim. And both of them have been updated for 2022, but they're really quite different. So that's going to be interesting. Then the Mercedes-Benz GLE, I mentioned it earlier. The one we drove had the regular passive springs and shocks. Didn't have the air suspension. I liked it better. That one's coming out on Wednesday. And we get tomorrow the Kia EV6. And we're going to turn that video around and put it out on Saturday for you guys. Okay? So thanks to everybody who tuned in. That's it. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm going to go and watch the rest of the Canucks game, and we'll chat with you next week. Take it easy. Bye now.